Shabbat Shalom, family. The selection today is Keep Your Hand on the Plow.
Keep your hand on the plow. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Keep your hand on the plow. Hold on. Hold on. Hold. Yeshua said no man can put his hand to the plow. Looking back before the kingdom of Yah. Keep your hand on the plow and hold on. Don't you wonder what you're gonna eat? Yah is our provider, why can't you see? Keep your hand on the plow. Hold on. Hold on. Keep your hand on the plow. Hold on. People gonna talk about you much as they please. The more they talk, stay up on your knees and keep your hand on the plow and hold on. When my way gets as dark as night, I know Yahshua will be my light. Keep your hand on the plow and hold on. Hold on. Keep your hand on the plow. Hold on. When I get to Zion, gonna sing it loud. Nobody there to put me out. Keep your hand on the plow and hold on. I know my robe is gonna fit me well. Earned it fighting at the gates of hell. Keep your hand on the plow and hold on. Hold on. Keep your hand on the plow. Hold on. Yeshua said no man can put his hand to the plow. Looking back before the kingdom of Yah. Keep your hand on the plow and hold on. Don't you wonder what you're gonna eat? Yah is our provider, why can't you see? Keep your hand on the plow and hold on. Hold on. Keep your hand on the plow. Hold on. People gonna talk about you much as they please. The more they talk, stay up on your knees and keep your hand on the plow and hold on. When my way gets as dark as night, I know Yahshua will be my light. Keep your hand on the plow and hold on. Hold on. Keep your hand on the plow. Please hold on. When I get to Zion, gonna sing it loud. Nobody there to put me out. Keep your hand on the plow and hold on. No, my robe is gonna fit me well. Earned it fighting at the gates of hell. Keep your hand on the plow and hold on. Hold on. Keep your hand on the plow. Hold on. and hold on.
The church oracles of the UCI, starting at 1 Peter chapter 4, verse 7 through 11. But the end of all things is at hand. Be you therefore sober and watch unto prayer. And above all things have fervent love among yourselves, for love shall cover the multitude of sins. Use hospitality one to another without grudging. As every man hath received the gift, even so minister the same one to another, as good stewards of the manifold grace of Elohim. If any man speak, let him speak as the oracles of Elohim. If any man minister, let him do it as the ability which Elohim giveth, that Elohim in all things may be glorified through Yahshua, the Mashiach, to whom be praise and dominion forever and ever. Amen. Ephesians chapter 4, verse 29 through 32, through chapter 5, verse 1 through 4. Let no corrupt communications proceed out of your mouth, but that which is good to the use of edifying, that it may minister grace unto the hearers. And grieve not the Holy Spirit of Elohim, whereby ye are sealed unto the day of redemption. Let all bitterness and wrath and anger and clamor and evil speaking be put away from you with all malice. And be ye kind one to another, tender-hearted, forgiving one another, even as Elohim, for Yahshua's sake, hath forgiven you. Chapter 5, verse 1 through 4. Be ye therefore followers of Elohim, as dear children, and walk in love, as the Mashiach also hath loved us, and hath given himself for us an offering and a sacrifice to Elohim for a sweet-smelling savor. But fornication, and all uncleanness, or covetousness, let it not be once named among you, as becometh saints. Neither filthiness, nor foolish talking, nor jesting, which are not convenient, but rather giving of thanks. Keep thy foot when thou goest to the house of Elohim. Ecclesiastes chapter 5, verse 1 through 2. Keep thy foot when thou goest to the house of Elohim, and be more ready to hear than to give the sacrifice of fools, for they consider not that they do evil. Be not rash with thy mouth, and let not thine heart be hasty to utter anything before Elohim. For Elohim is in heaven, and you upon earth, therefore let your words be few. Exodus chapter 23, verse 20 and 21. Behold, I send an angel before thee to keep thee in the way, and to bring thee into the place which I have prepared. Beware of him, and obey his voice, provoke him not. For he will not pardon your transgressions, for my name is in him. Revelation chapter 3, verse 20 through 22. Behold, I stand at the door and knock. If any man hear my voice and open the door, I will come into him and will sup with him, and he with me. To him that overcometh will I grant to sit with me in my throne, even as I also overcame, and am sat down with my Father in his throne. He that hath an ear, let him hear what the Spirit saith unto the churches.
Hallelujah. Shabbat Shalom, family.
Shabbat Shalom.
And welcome to another Sabbath that Yahweh has allowed us to live and see.
Praise
and
God.
given us the ability to be able to congregate here together as a family. Today's class is entitled Journey of Yah's Servant. Servant singular. Because we all have our own journey. We've all taken a journey up unto this point, and the journey's not over. So each and every one of us have our own story, our own journey of how we got here. And we did not direct ourselves here. So let's begin in Genesis chapter 12. We're going to read verses 1 through 10. And we're going to be not jumping around the book, but we're going to be jumping around to a lot of verses. So you might end up with a lot of verses written, just getting to the point. So far, I know Most of us in the room are tired. I know I'm tired, but it's a good tired because we've been enjoying ourselves night after night. As thus says Yahweh, during the Feast of Tabernacles, we've been getting together every night, different things, reaching out, leaving out of here late. But it's a good tired. Go ahead, my brother.
Genesis chapter 12 and verse 1. Now Yahweh had said unto Abram, Get thee out of thy country, and from thy kindred, and from thy father's house, unto a land that I will show thee. And I will make of thee a great nation, and I will bless thee, and make your name great, and thou shalt be a blessing.
Now, even just this situation, most of us would have a problem with being told to move away from our family, get away from your kindred, your kinfolks. We use that word not understanding that it's been shortened. The whole word is kindred. We say kinfolks. That's where it comes from. We would have a problem being told to get away from our kinfolks. We have a problem when our kinfolks tell us it's time for you to move on and move out. But that's necessary for your journey to begin. Because if you're under the tutelage or the roof of any real parents, you're going to have to continue to abide by their rules and regulations. So as long as you're abiding by their rules and regulations, they are setting the standards of what you can and can't do. Yahweh is now setting the standard, telling him, get out from them. Why? Because I'm the one that you need to listen to. Go ahead.
Verse 3. And I will bless them that bless thee, and curse him that curseth thee, and in thee shall all the families of the earth be blessed. So Abram departed, as Yahweh had spoken unto him, and Lot went with him, and Abram was 75 years old when he departed out of Haran.
So Yahweh told Abram to leave, but Lot went with him. He said, get away from your kindred, from your kinfolks. Is Lot not his kinfolks? And that's where we can run ourselves into trouble, thinking that once Yahweh puts us on a path, that it's for everybody to come along. We're trying to drag our friends and our families. Sometimes we even trying to drag our enemies along. Yes, we're supposed to spread the word, and we're not supposed to be partial to whom we spread the word. But Yahweh said, get away from your kindred. Here go Lot coming along on the journey. Yahweh changes our course and our direction. Sometimes you just need to learn to walk and figure out if Yahweh even wants anybody else on the journey with you. Like we talked about the goat pee water. You get away from drinking it, and you might have to look at the source of the spring to see, is there even enough for you to let everybody else know? Sounds selfish, but you got to think about it. One of a city, two of a family. You might bring your competition along and be fighting for a seat, or end up losing your seat. So first and foremost, you've got to take care of your salvation. You've got to work on your salvation. We don't put down the other people we leave behind. As Yahweh builds you up, you try to build up those that you've left behind. But at the beginning of your journey, bringing them along might be the stumbling block at the beginning of your journey. Because now you're pulling extra load and extra baggage, and you're worrying about other people. There's no one of us in this room who's considerate, who doesn't think about someone else when we carry them somewhere. You invite somebody out to dinner, 9 times out of 10, you're wondering, I wonder if he enjoys the food, if they even like this food. You take somebody to a movie, I'm wondering if they enjoying the movie. But had you gone by yourself, it's the movie you want to see, or it's the meal that you want to have, you can enjoy your meal in peace. And then you can tell the person, hey, I went and saw this movie, and it was a good movie. I went and had this meal, and it was a good meal. And they might tell you, hey, I don't like that kind of food. Okay, I'm glad I didn't invite you. Go ahead.
Genesis chapter 12 and verse 5. And Abram took Sarai his wife, and Lot his brother's son, and all their substance that they had gathered, and the souls that they had gotten in Haran. And they went forth to go into the land of Canaan, and into the land of Canaan they came.
You know, I just mentioned taking somebody out to food, and it seems funny. I invited a brother some years ago. I was going out for Indian food, but it was Pakistanis. He's ex-military. We get in there and he starts looking around. I'm like, what's wrong with this brother? And he's sitting there, man, you know how many of these people I done killed, man? And I can't enjoy my meal now. Because I'm wondering if they looking at him crazy because he looking at them crazy. So sometimes it's best to begin your journey on your own. Go ahead.
And Abram passed through the land unto the place of Shechem, unto the plain of Moreh, and the Canaanite was then in the land. And Yahweh appeared unto Abram and said, Unto your seed will I give this land. And there builded he an altar unto Yahweh, who appeared unto him.
So he's now in the land that Yahweh is promising to give him, to give to his seed. He's there. Hey, most of us say the journey's done, it's over, I'm here. Go ahead.
And he removed from thence unto a mountain on the east of Bethel, and he pitched his tent, having Bethel on the west, and Hai on the east, and there he builded an altar unto Yahweh, and called upon the name of Yahweh. And Abram journeyed, going on still toward the south, and there was a famine in the land, and Abram went down into Egypt to sojourn there, for the famine was grievous in the land.
So he was in the land that was promised unto him and his seed. But he kept on moving till he ended up in Egypt. Most of us would have figured, hey, I'm there, the journey is done. But there's so much more to learn on the journey. Go ahead.
You going verse 11? I thought you was going to...
Yeah, let's go ahead and jump to Genesis chapter 20 and verse 1. Like I said, there'll be a lot of verses, but it's to pinpoint what we're dealing with.
Genesis chapter 20 and verse 1. And Abram journeyed from thence toward the south country, and dwelled with Kadesh and Shur, and sojourned in Gerar.
And he dwelt between Kadesh and Shur, and sojourned into Gerar. Let's jump down to verse 15.
And Abimelech said, Behold, my land is before you. Dwell where it pleaseth thee.
So now he's got the opportunity to live wherever he wants to live. But he's already been to the promised land. Now here's somebody else saying, dwell wherever you want to live. Let's go to verse 33.
Chapter 20.
Chapter 21, pardon me, in verse 33.
And Abraham planted a grove in Beersheba, and called there on the name of Yahweh, the everlasting Elohim. And Abram sojourned in the Philistines' land many days.
So we see he's still journeying on. He's still moving. But he's already been to the promised land. But this man is still going. So I wonder if he had a conversation with his wife and told, this is where Yahweh said, he gonna give me this land right here. I see a brother shaking his head already. No, don't do that. Don't do that. Because at this point, if you in Canaan land and this is where Yahweh said he was giving you, why are we still moving? Why are we still traveling? You got this man over here say, hey, dwell wherever you want to dwell. Why are we still moving? Mm-hmm. So if you have the wrong type of person along with you, or if you're saying too much, this journey can become a provocation onto you. Let's go to chapter 22, and we're going to read verses 1 through 4.
Verse 1. And it came to pass after these things that Elohim did tempt Abraham and said unto him, Abraham. And he said, Behold, here I am.
So when we started in Genesis 12, his name was Abram. And now we're in chapter 22. It's Abraham. So there's a name change along the journey. Just as most of us in this room who have taken our baptism have also had a name change on the journey. So we can see that this is not just happening to one servant, or it's not something that we've done differently. This was set forth in the course. We can constantly see name changes of Yahweh's servants. And sometimes it's not Yahweh changing the name. Sometimes it's the heathen that changes their name. But because we're getting back to our culture, having an understanding that these names have a meaning, we're doing what's necessary to have a name that reflects who our Elohim is, who rules over us, who we're under subjection. In plain English, who our God is. Because before this, the name, most of our names reflected the religion of Jesus. But even while we were walking that walk, most of us knew when we ran into a Muslim. Go ahead.
Genesis chapter 22 and verse 2. And he said, Take now thy son, thine only son Esaac, whom thou lovest, and get thee into the land of Moriah, and offer him there for a burnt offering upon one of the mountains which I will tell thee of. And Abraham rose up early in the morning, and saddled his ass, and took 2 of his young men with him, and Esau his son, and clave the wood for the burnt offering, and rose up, and went unto the place which Elohim had told him. Then on the 3rd day Abraham lifted up his eyes, and saw a place afar off.
So even where he's at, he's still having to take another journey. Now him and his son is taking another journey to another place. At the beginning of his journey, he was told that I'm going to take you to this land. How do you think he would have felt in the beginning if he was told about this part of the journey? That there's going to come a time along your journey that I need you to sacrifice your son. Go ahead, my brother. Let's go to chapter 23, verses 1 through 4.
And Sarah was 177 years old, and there were the years of the life of Sarah. And Sarah died in Kiriath-arba, and the same is Hebron in the land of Canaan. And Abraham came to mourn for Sarah, and to weep for her.
And we also see that his wife's name has changed. Go ahead.
And Abraham stood up from before his dead, and spake unto the sons of Heth, saying, I am a stranger and a sojourner with you. Give me a possession of a burying place with you, that I may bury my dead out of my sight.
So along this journey, we've seen him plant stuff, build stuff, and then have to move on. Most of us, when we set roots in a place, it's hell and high water to get us to move. But this is the journey of a servant, Yah's servant, not just any servant. So as servants, we have to open our minds to how does Yahweh want us to move and when does he want us to move? Or do we move according to how we feel? Let's go to Genesis chapter 12, and we're going to read verses 1 through 10. Genesis 12. Let's see. Pardon me? That was the first book? Oh. I guess I got my stuff all mixed up here.
13. Yeah, you got Genesis 13, 1 through 4.
Let's go to Genesis 26.
26, okay.
That's what happened when you're tired and you copying and stuff down and copying and pasting.
There's been a lot going on, but I tell you. All right, Genesis chapter 26, verse 1 through 6. And there was a famine in the land beside the first famine that was in the days of Abraham, and Esaac went unto Abimelech, king of the Philistines, in Gerar. And Yahweh appeared unto him and said, Go not down into Egypt, dwell in the land which I shall tell thee of. Sojourn in this land, and I will be with thee, and I will bless thee, for unto thee and unto your seed I will give all these countries, and I will perform the oath which I swear unto Abraham your father.
So he's now talking to Abraham's son, Esau. He's putting him on another journey, telling him to go here. But Abraham has already been to the promised land and kept moving. Here comes his son. He's got him on a different journey. But we've already been in the promised land. But the journey of your father is not necessarily the journey for you. There was a time when most of us, whatever occupation our fathers had, would have become our occupations. But that also changed along the journey. As parents decide they want their children to have better than what they've had. But it's also that opportunity of having different occupational opportunities that also leads us on a different journey, whether away from home, going off to college, or taking a job in another state, another country, whatever. So those things then open up doors, because most of us, if you've taken on the occupation of your father, you'd have then taken over the business that they have set up, which would mean what? You'd have been stationary in the same place. Because what is it? I built this place. I've made a name for myself. And 9 times out of 10, those people are looking for the child to come along and take over the business. In my situation, when my father passed away and I was in Orlando dealing with his house, his customers, you're going to move down here? Why am I going to move down here? So you can take over the business. No, that's not happening. You all need to go find a different mechanic. Goodbye. Go ahead.
Verse 4. And I will make your seed to multiply as the stars of heaven, and will give unto your seed all these countries. And in your seed shall all the nations of the earth be blessed, because that Abraham obeyed my voice, and kept my charge, my commandments, my statutes, and my laws.
And in Bible study, we were going over the 613 laws, statutes, and judgments. Mm-hmm. And what did he say? This is being passed on to you because your father Abraham obeyed my voice. whatever comes out of his voice is the law. When he told Abram to get away from your kindred, that was a commandment for Abram. Get away from your kindred. Was that for all of Israel at that time? No, that was specific for Abram. This is the law I'm giving you right now. Get away from them people. Go ahead.
And Esaac dwelt in Gerar. That's it, my brother.
And you know, he says, and he kept my charge, my commandments, my statutes, and my laws. How many of us take that into consideration? A charge, a job. There's some people here, their charge is to deal with maintenance. There's brothers here, their charge is to take care of the front door. He said he kept my charge. What was his charge? To go forth and build a nation. And even at this point, we got to ask ourselves, he said he kept my commandments, my statutes, and my laws. What commandments? Has any commandments been written yet? Any laws been engraved yet? So what is Yahweh talking about? Whatever discussion he had with Abram, whatever he told Abram, that was the law, the commandments, and the statutes for Abram. And as long as Abram did what thus says Yah, he was being obedient. Let's go to verse 16 and 17.
And Abimelech said unto Esaac, Go from us, for thou art much mightier than we. And Esaac departed thence and pitched his tent in the valley of Gerar and dwelt there.
And even when you look at it, you see some of the same circles that his father traveled in. So his journey is basically the same, running into the same people. But is he going to be an obedient servant? It's very disruptive. Once you've settled into a place, to be told to move on. But once, what did Yahweh said? He hearkened unto my voice. He listened to what I had to say. And because of that, you now have this favor. Set you on your journey. Go ahead, brother.
You know, after, coming into the word, praise Yah, I then realized, when certain things took place in my life back in Florida, it's like it was a direction that Yahweh was sending me into. Because there's other places I realized that I could have been.
Right.
That I could have, other things that I could have done.
Right.
And just the way how things happen, going back and looking at how things happened, I see that Yahweh was directing me to be where He wanted me to be. So praise Yah, wasn't happy how things happened turned out at first, because, car getting stolen and, just the way how certain things happened. And it changed, from me staying in Florida to be here in Georgia. It's just the way how things was happening and the direction that I was going and ended up.
A lot of times we don't like the process, but when you look back at the end results, and that's why I said the journey of Yah's servant, not servants, because each and every one of us has a different tale to tell. Each one of us sitting in this room took a different route to get here. And this is what I want us all to reflect on. I want everybody to be able to go back into their own journey and see what it took to get you here. And if you really meditate on a lot of things, you realize that you had nothing to do with it. Absolutely nothing. Majority of us, there's few in this room that's Georgia born and bred. Few in this room. And a lot of those have taken other journeys outside of Georgia and come back around. But just look at the journey. Just meditate. Even to the people that's on the airwaves, listening. Just think about the journey of what it took and how you got to the site of the UCI. There's people who have taken a journey just to get their baptism, knowing that this probably will be the only trip I ever make to this building. But that's part of the journey. We've had a brother take a one-way trip because he said, I know I have to get this done. Mm-hmm. We sat here and asked him, how you getting back home? I don't know.
Yeah.
It was either New York or New Jersey he came from.
Yeah.
The brother took a trip one way because what? I must by all means get this baptism done. I worry about getting back home after I get this baptism. Praise Yahweh indeed. But that's just how important it is to some people. That's just how we need to be able to move when Yahweh puts something on your heart. When we start trying to balance things and be in control, and that's when Yahweh sometimes has to make the journey rougher. Okay, you won't just willingly go along? You want to keep doing your own thing? Okay. Go ahead.
Genesis chapter 26 and verse 23. And he went up from thence to Beersheba.
So here we've got Abraham's son Esau, who's now journeying all around the place. But his father's already been to the promised land. So now because you have found the UCI, or I shouldn't say you found the UCI, Yahweh has directed you to the UCI, or Yahweh has directed you to the truth, period. Mm-hmm. Does that mean your journey is done? It's over? Now you have to ask yourself, in what magnitude does Yahweh want me to serve? A servant has a job. Do you go to a restaurant and see the waitress and don't expect to be served? And funny thing is, I've heard a friend of mine saying, hey man, my tip depends on how low my glass gets. You raising your hand, you one of those people? So now let's see if Yahweh now puts that weight on you. And say your salvation determines on how low you let your work get down. How much you start slacking off. We're servants. The children of Israel were created to be servants unto Yahweh. What is your job? We've heard about talents. But when we read the story of talents, it seems financial because it's talking of the increase of finances. What about the Yahweh given talent? Whether you're a singer, whether you write poetry, whether you're a maintenance man, whether you write stories, whether you're an IT person, how do you let your natural ability benefit Yahweh? Yahweh puts things in people to test. Yahweh is constantly shaking up and moving stuff. And that's how you figure out who servants are. Servants are going to step up. They hear there's an issue. Hey, I know how to do that. Oh, you do? We've had several times within this small congregation that the media department has been turned upside down. And all of a sudden, people who've been sitting in the, I would say, seat dwellers, get an opportunity to step up. Because a lot of times we look in a department and say, there's enough people over there. And you just sit there and you don't say anything. They got that under control. But you're the one that's losing because you're not getting to do works in Yahweh's house. There's always opportunity to rotate. If you got too many people in one department, then you start rotating them. You jump in, hey, I know how to do this. Is there a way I can get in and help? Then you build a rotation so that everybody is able to get in and get some works and put something on their spiritual account. And even for those who don't know how to do certain things and you might have a desire, you still go and say, hey, I'd like to learn this. Now what you're doing, you're adding to your talents. Now you've stepped up from being just in the maintenance department and knowing how to change light bulbs, then now you might learn how to just turn on a computer. Then eventually you go from that to learning how to post the graphics. And then you're helping to set up mics for the choir. You're adding to your talents. That's the part of adding to the talents that we need to look at. So when the master comes, we can show that we've got work on our accounts. We can show that we've increased on the talents that he's given us. So you happy with just, I do music. I'm happy with just doing music. I didn't have no desire to sit here. I can tell y'all point blank, and I've said it before. Where I was at before, I was happy with being a part of open mic. Mm-hmm. Okay? First Saturday of every month was open mic. I got to get up on stage and rap, and I was happy with that. Don't get me wrong. I used to look in the media room, but there was a brother that sat in the media room, would look back. I'd be like, all right, guess I'll stay away from that room. But I would constantly, so there was a desire to be in that media room. Then a shakeup happened along the journey. A shakeup happened along my journey that ended up with that brother and all those other brothers in that department moving along. What do you think I did? Hey, we're going to do this like it's double dutch. I jumped right in. I saw my opportunity. Don't let the opportunity pass you. Another shakeup happened. I was sitting in the seat and, from that department, media, don't get me wrong, I was happy with just open mic, okay? You think about it, once a month, come on. Other than that, just sit in the seat and relax. Another shakeup happened. Back in the seat, sitting. Priest Esaac teaching. And one day you say, hey, brother, you ready to read? What? They're going to keep the camera focused on you, right? They ain't going to put the camera on me, right? So constantly adding to the talents. That's part of my journey. Just like he said many times, hey, don't think that because you don't see me in that media room that I don't know what goes on in the media room, or I don't know how to run the equipment in the media room. I can honestly say y'all have it easier than I had it. Because at the end of the day, class can be over and somebody can say, hey, give me a DVD of class. Boom. Print it off and go. Hey, my time when they say give me a DVD, see me next Sabbath. I'll have it ready for you. Why? Because the audio and the video was separate. So Sabbath class is over at 3, 4 o'clock. Hey man, sometimes 12, 1 o'clock in the morning. I'm still in the studio, syncing up the audio and the video. Unless you're sticking around to 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, you're not getting a DVD till the next Sabbath. But it also goes to show you how the journey can get easier because guess what? Things and times change. So now, for the next set of people on this journey, it's not as tedious. It's not as hard. It's not as difficult. So even when you look at Abraham going through his journey and then his son Esau coming behind him, trust and believe that Abimelech knows who Abraham is. Don't you think it make it a little bit easier for Esau, his son, to come along? Go ahead, my brother.
Genesis chapters 27, verse 41 through 43.
We're going to Genesis chapter 27, verses 41 and 43. Like I said, it's a lot of verses, but it's to, show the point of someone else's journey.
And Esau hated Jacob because of the blessings wherewith his father blessed him. And Esau said in his heart, the days of mourning for my father are at hand. Then will I slay my brother Jacob. And these words of Esau, her eldest son, were told to Rebekah. And she sent and called Jacob, her younger son, and said unto him, behold, thy brother Esau is touching thee, doth comfort himself, purposing to kill thee.
Now, you understand what was just said. He comforts himself with the idea of killing his brother. What do you have to have within you for that is comfort? Their father just passed. And here he is ready to take another life. And that's comforting him. On the part of Jacob, this can't be something you want to hear. Man, you telling me I've got to leave my house? Because this dude, my brother, wants to kill me? You want me to pack up and leave? Most of us have been, hey man, he gonna have to do what he gotta do. Let's do this. Especially you've been given warning, oh man, you better see me before I see you. But the man took the shakeup of his life and took the journey. But all shakeups at the beginning is not comfortable. But if we follow what Yahweh has for us, it's the end results. That's why I say we all need to reflect on where we've come from and the journey that it took to get us where we're at. I'm sure we can all sit down at the end of this and talk about our journeys. And there's going to be some similarities. But we all will realize that we had nothing to do with it. Yahweh orchestrated everything. Where are we going? Genesis 28. We're going to go to Genesis 28. And we're going to read verses 1 and 2.
You still had that last song.
Oh, go ahead.
43.
Read the last one.
Now therefore, my son, obey my voice and arise, flee you to Laban, my brother, to Haran.
All right, let's go to chapter 28.
Verse 1. And Esau called Jacob and blessed him and charged him and said unto him, Thou shalt take a wife of the daughters of Canaan.
Thou shalt not.
Thou shalt not take a wife of the daughters of Canaan. Arise, go to Pandanaram, to the house of Bethuel, your mother's father, and take thee a wife from thence of the daughters of Laban, thy mother's brother.
So now the father is in on telling him to leave. Another journey. And, you know, I don't know how many people here have had to go live with other family members. For some of us, it's nice. And for some of us, it's not nice. Because you really didn't get the feeling of what they call the Cinderella story, as everybody takes advantage of you. Mm-hmm. And starts putting the weight of all the work around the house on you. Sometimes we think, hey man, hey, you mean I go live with auntie, I'll go live with uncle? And then you get there and you forget, it ain't just auntie and uncle. You got nieces and nephews that as soon as the adults gone, hey bro, take out the trash. Man, your mama told you to do that. Bro, what'd I say? It's my house. I live here. Take out the trash. Now you got two rules in the house. And if there's more than one of them, guess who they gonna side with? Mm-hmm. Each other against you. I'm talking from experience, of course. Let's jump down to verse 10.
And Jacob went out from Beersheba and went toward Haran.
All right, see, we got him traveling again. Let's go to Genesis chapter 31. And we're going to read verse 3.
And Yahweh said unto Jacob, Return unto the land of your fathers and to your kindred, and I will be with thee.
So when Jacob first began his journey, his mother was the one that orchestrated and said, hey, you need to leave. Then we heard the father tell him, go ahead and go. Now he's gone, and what Yahweh is telling him, hey man, I need you to go back. How many of us would say, hey, look, man, mom and daddy told me to leave. Or I'm not going back there. Like the brother said, you got comfortable, you got wives, you got children. Yahweh, look. I know you LOLs, but this is what my people told me to do. Mom and daddy told me to stay here. That's why we can see where the kindred can get in the way in certain situations. Mm-hmm. Who are you going to listen to? Who are you going to follow? When we go back to Abram, before he was set on his journey, Yahweh made sure Terah was dead. That's Abram's father. Terah worshipped idols. How hard it would have been for him to go and say, hey, Yahweh said, who's this Yahweh? Yahweh said for me to take your idols and crush them and bust them up. Who is this Yahweh? Bro, I've been worshiping this before you've been born. You don't tell me I can't worship my idols? Mm-hmm. Well, if you don't get out from before me, or what our parents like to say, I brought you in this world, I'll take you out. But Yahweh knows how to set you on the journey. Yahweh knows the best time to set you on the journey. I've looked back at my own situation, at the mother that raised me. She passed on before I got into the Word. And I've questioned myself, how much of a stumbling block would that have been for me? I've looked back at my own journey. Coming here and this brother talking to me and mentioning the name of Yahweh, how Yahweh Elohim blocked my memory of YBY and the group of people in Miami who tainted his name. Because I tell anybody, had that come to my remembrance when this brother came and talked to me? Nah, bro, I'm good. I'm out. You can have that. But it took years later. This is how Yahweh will fool you. It took years later, and I sat there and said, wait a minute. I've heard this name before. That's them people that, you got me. You got me real good. You got me. Hey, took me out from down there, took me on some journeys, took me to some places. Get some stuff out of your head. I'll bring it back to your remembrance later on. Hey, but it worked, and I'm thankful.
Yeah, praise God, bro.
All right, where we at, brother?
Genesis chapter 31 and verse, chapter 33.
33, we're going to read verses 17 through 20.
Yeah. And Jacob journeyed to Succoth and built him a house and made booths for his cattle. Therefore, the name of the place is called Succoth.
So he built him a house, right? But where was he told to go? Back home to his kindred and his folks. If we've been paying attention to class, it said Jacob journeyed to Succoth and built him a house and made booths. What is booths, people? Succoth. Okay. So a lot of times when we listening to names and things, the definition is usually right there. We're in the middle of what?
Tabernacles.
And what are you supposed to do during tabernacles? Okay. Go ahead, brother.
And Jacob came to Shalem, a city of Shechem, which is in the land of Canaan, when he came from Padanaram, and pitched his tent before the city. And he bought a parcel of a field where he had spread his tent at the hand of the children of Hamor, Shechem's father, for 100 pieces of money. And he erected there an altar and called it El Elohi Israel.
All right, let's go to chapter 35 and verse 1. So he just built a house, dwelt in booths, built an altar. He's setting up shop. Okay.
And Elohim said unto Jacob, Arise, go up to Bethel, and dwell there, and make there an altar unto Elohim, that appeared unto you when thou fleddest from the face of Esau thy brother.
But wait a minute, man. I just built a house. And I already built an altar. What's wrong with the altar I just built? All right. Let's go to 37 and verse 1. It's not easy being a servant when Yahweh puts you on a journey, is it? Best thing not to do is get in your mind that this is the end of my journey.
Mm-hmm. And Jacob dwelt in the land wherein his father was a stranger, in the land of Canaan.
All right, let's go to Genesis. Let's jump down to verses 26 through 28.
Then there passed by Midianites merchantmen, And they drew and lifted up Joseph out of the pit, and sold Joseph to the Ishmaelites for 20 pieces of silver. And they brought Joseph into Egypt. And Reuben returned unto the pit, and behold, Joseph was not in the pit, and he rent his clothes. And he returned unto his brethren and said, The child is not, and I know not where shall I go. And they took Joseph's coat, and killed a kid of the goats, and dipped the coat in the blood. And they sent the coat of many colors, and they brought it to their father, and said, This have we found. Know now whether it be thy son's coat or no. Was that the verse 36? Excuse me.
Hold on. It was supposed to be Genesis chapter 37 and verse 26. Is that where you started? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. All right. So now we see here that Joseph is starting a journey that he's not being sent on by his mother, his father. Yahweh didn't talk to him and say, hey, I need you to go do this. The brothers devised a plan to get rid of him, to get him away from them, which then sets him on a journey. He's had dreams, but I don't think anywhere in his dreams he understood that he would be taking a journey. All right, let's, you read to verse 36, right? You read verse 36?
No, not yet.
Okay.
And the Midianites, verse 36, and the Midianites sold him into Egypt unto Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh's and captain of the guard.
All right, so he's on his way. Let's go to Genesis chapter 46. One way or another, whatever it takes, Yahweh's going to get you on the journey that he needs you to take.
Genesis chapter 46, starting at verse 2. And Elohim spake unto Israel in the visions of the night, and said, Jacob, Jacob. And he said, Here am I. And he said, I am Elohim, the Elohim of thy father. Fear not to go down into Egypt, for I will there make of thee a great nation. I will go down with thee into Egypt, and I will also surely bring thee up again, and Joseph shall put his hand upon thine eyes. And Jacob rose up from Beersheba, and the sons of Israel carried Jacob their father, and their little ones, and their wives, in the wagons which Pharaoh had sent to carry him.
So Joseph is already down in Egypt. Here's Jacob, an old man. He's well established where he's at. But here comes Yahweh telling him, fear not to go down. I'll be with you. Remember, this man had to run out to spare his life from his brother. Now he's lost a son. Don't know what has become of the son until now. The son is sent for him to come down into Egypt. Most of us on the first trip, I need to go see what it's like first. And then I'll go. Let me come visit you a couple times. But his first trip, Yahweh say, nah, man, pack up everything and go. I'm going to be with you. Come on, most of y'all moved to a place by visiting there a couple of times. Then say, all right. I didn't just move to Georgia. I came out here several times. Buddy, hey man, you need to come here, bro. It's going on for black folks out here. Yeah, I'll come visit you a couple of times and see how it looks first. But that wasn't even of him. Because I can tell you, that was my buddy. That was my boy. From 14 years on up, my rap partner did shows together. But that was the vessel that Yahweh used to get me here, because we're not like that anymore. So I have to look back and realize, hey, he did his job. You got me where Yahweh needed me to be. Do I try to convince him to bring him on to this word? Nah, I know where he stand. I respect where you stand, and you stay over there. But it's funny, the journey, because even his journey was different, because I had this mindset, Marine Corps. Yeah, that's my buddy. I talked to him. Yeah, I'm going to Marine Corps after we leave high school. He signs up. I end up not going. He journeyed where, came back around. But here's the funny thing. Me not going, when he came out the Corps and came back to Miami, I was in management position. So when he comes back, he needed a job. I get you in, bro. I get him in to management. He eventually moves up and gets his own store. Guess where his store is at? Georgia. So Yahweh setting up all the pieces and the players. Mm-hmm. We might not like the journey, but the end results, if you look back at it and see Yahweh's hand, hey man, it's a pleasure. Go ahead, my brother.
And that's the thing, like what you just said, is it's Yahweh's hand. And, you can't get too complacent and comfortable in a spot, even though we do. But if Yahweh shows you something that needs your attention and you need to make that move to go somewhere else because he wants you to be somewhere else, then, like you just said, if it's Yahweh's hand in it, we need to move.
Yep. It's funny that this brother and I are sitting next to each other. You heard him talk about when his car broke down. This brother and I were basically in the same vicinity when we were in Miami.
Crazy.
But didn't know each other. Mm-mm. One of the places that I worked at, he frequent.
Yeah.
But we didn't know each other. Now the same partner of mine that I'm telling you of how I got out here, how about they knew each other? Here though, and when they knew each other, we still didn't know each other. Mm-hmm. I think it took us going to some event at somebody else's house.
Yeah.
Hey, wait a minute, you know him? Yeah, that's my partner. But so when I'm talking about this partner of mine, he knows who I'm talking about. So it's funny how Yahweh just puts all the pieces together. Mm-hmm. And even though him and this dude are running together, this dude is not here. So he knows him, he knows me, but he's not here. Hey, Yahweh does what he does. Mm-hmm. But when that brother comes around, I still put the word out. And let him deal with it however he wants to deal with it. Every man's got to make his own decision. Every man's got his own journey. Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
Genesis chapter 46 and verse 6. And they took their cattle and their goods which they had gotten in the land of Canaan and came into Egypt, Jacob and all his seed with him.
Now, where are they leaving from? The land of Canaan. What is the land of Canaan? It's the promised land. So here we go again. The whole family at this point, it's a family of Israel is in the promised land. And having to pack up and leave. Go down into Egypt. Once again, hey, you'd think the journey would be over. The journey keeps going on. Let's go to...
Still got one,
go ahead.
Verse 7. His sons and his sons with him, his daughters and his sons' daughters, and all his seed brought he with him into Egypt.
Even that is a task within itself. You're able to get all your sons to come? These are grown men with families and children. We couldn't do that in this day and age. Nah, Dad, you go ahead. Just leave us the deed to the land. Turn the land over, the house over to me. You go ahead and go. I'll be here. Oh man, think about it. And we're going to the brother that we betrayed? Nah, bro, this might be a setup. Nah, I'm good. Really? We set this man up and we sold him. Now we supposed to think that everything gonna be okay? Nah, I'm good. It's the same thing the dad had to go through though. When he told him go back home, he had to go back to a brother that wanted to kill him at one point. It's funny how Yahweh does what he does, doesn't it? But we don't sit and look and meditate on the journey. That's why I said earlier, when he said, get away from your kindred, our kinfolks, your boys, your girls. I don't mean your children. I mean your boys that you kick it with, your homegirls that you kick it with for the sisters. Hey, sometimes it's necessary to get away from them people. Yahweh put you on a journey. Go on that journey. See what Yahweh has. Then you reach back and say, hey man, you know, I've been over here. This is what's happening. Yahweh brings you in at the level that was fitting for you at that time. When Yahweh brings you up on the next level, your buddies may not be ready to come up with that level with you at the same time. But have patience. Yahweh had patience with you while you were over there on that level. Before he opened your eyes up to let you realize, hey man, you know you can drink spring water, you know what I'm saying? Stop going. You see the goats peeing in that water, bro. Stop going over there. But like I said, at least you rushed to go tell everybody, and you didn't realize that, you know what, this is not a reliable source of spring water for everybody. There's only a few people that know about this fountain over here for a reason. Now you got bickering and fighting at the fountain, and everybody ain't gonna cherish it the way you cherish it. You walk up and some dude washing his face in the water. Bro, what are you doing? Why you got your face over the spring water washing your face, man? Yahweh opened it up for you. Take some time out to cherish it and enjoy it just for you. I'm saying, take that selfish moment before you try to bring everybody along. All right, where are we going?
Genesis chapter 47 and verse 28. Genesis chapter 47 and verse 28. And Jacob lived in the land of Egypt 17 years. So the whole age of Jacob was 147 years.
All right, so Jacob then left Canaan. He's in Egypt, had to pull up everything and move out. But we can see along the way that all of them kept going back to the promised land and having to leave. What was it? Was there just lessons of humbleness that had to be learned? Was Yahweh slowly taking care of the inhabitants of the land? Or maybe we just weren't able or ready to cherish the land. Because sometimes if you get something and you don't have to go through anything, you don't appreciate it. Most parents know when you give a child something, they don't care it as much as when they have to buy it and pay for it. Once they get to that age and you say, nah, you go buy it for yourself, or you see a different care. Even as a parent, you might, Dad, is that my phone? Just be careful with that now. What? I mean, you might drop it. I see how you handle your own phone. Oh man, it's a different care. And you got siblings? Hey, don't touch my stuff. What? But Dad, I paid for that. I bought that with my own money. Okay. So why he can't play with it? Because it's mine. All right. So up on this point, the whole family of Israel have not gone through anything to really appreciate being in the land. Yahweh, that Supreme Father, probably already knew that way before us. That me just giving it to you, the appreciation is not really going to be there. Let's go to Yonah, chapter 1, and we're going to read verses 1 through 3.
Yonah, chapter 1, and verse 1. Now the word of Yahweh came unto Yonah, the son of Amittai, saying, Arise, go to Nineveh, that great city, and cry against it, for their wickedness is come up before me. But Yonah rose up to flee unto Tarshish from the presence of Yahweh, and went down to Joppa, and he found the ship going to Tarshish. So he paid the fare thereof, and went down into it to go with them unto Tarshish from the presence of Yahweh.
So if you're looking at this map right here, do y'all see what's written above Tarshish? Spain. So when we read these names, especially when we hear that the ships of Tarshish will be first to take us back, we can look at this and say, okay, these ships are going to be coming from Spain. These are Spanish armadas. The problem is we look at these names that's in here and we can't put a correlation in today's modern times. Those are the things we also need to understand and start to get an understanding of. Like when we hear the Medes, we just, the Medes. No, let's get an understanding. That's the Russians. So when you hear about the Medes destroying this mystery Babylon, then you start to be able to put clues together. Who got a problem with the Russians and who does the Russians have a problem with? Oh, okay. Now, even on this map, look at where Yahweh sent him to from where he was at. Do we see point A? Point A is the beginning, right? Point B is where he was supposed to go. Do we see how short of a journey that is compared to where this joker decided he was going to run to? You took a ship there. How far do we think we can run? This joker figure, if I get way over here, Yahweh can't touch me. And that's what we have to keep in consideration as well. Hey man, because you doing something in the dark and nobody else see you, that don't mean Yahweh don't see you. I don't care where you run to or where you try to hide. This joker took a ship, and what did Yahweh do? Yahweh prepared a big fish and brought him back on his way. Bro, you wasted a lot of time. A lot of precious time was wasted going to Spain. This man could have been up in Nineveh, did his job, and been back home.
Mm-hmm.
So we got to look at sometimes when we kicking against the brakes. How long are we prolonging the job? How much more difficult are we making the journey than it has to be, than it needs to be? So I say sometimes when Yahweh show you something, at that point in time, that's when you need to correct it. That's when you need to make a change, make a turn. Even in the situation with a man disannulling a vow that his wife has made or his daughter has made unmarried under his roof. It says, in the day that you hear it. It didn't say 24 hours. It said, in the day that you hear it. So, if I happen to hear it at 7 o'clock, and I see the sun going down, what does that mean? The day is running out. I need to take care of some business. We already know what it said. This is a situation where I don't need to meditate on this. If I've heard that you made a vow that I know you can't keep, what do I need to sit down and meditate on it for? I'm only going to cause you problems in the long run and myself problems in the long run when that sun goes down and a new day begins. Some things you just don't get time to meditate and think about if you already know what is written. At that point, you're going off of what you think, feel, and believe. Let's go to Jonah chapter 3. We're going to read verses 1 through 3.
I'm coming back. And the word of Yahweh came unto Jonah the second time, saying, Arise, go unto Nineveh, that great city, and preach unto it the preaching that I bid thee.
So it says it came to him the second time. Did we hear that said to Abram? Did we hear that being said to Esau? Did we hear that being said to Jacob? So it goes to show you that you got servants who deal differently. Yahweh had patience with him though, right? So we also have to learn to have patience with our brothers and sisters if they're truly trying to walk. But there's a limitation to that as well. Don't keep doing something that's going to end up vexating you. We have to learn, back off, and let either Satan toss him around, or Yahweh deal with him. Let's go to Acts chapter 9.
You still got one more?
Go ahead.
Verse 3. So Jonah arose and went unto Nineveh, according to the word of Yahweh. Now Nineveh was an exceeding great city of 3 days' journey.
3 days' journey. But this joker runs off to Spain. And even in our coming out of Egypt, how many days was it from Egypt to the promised land? 11 days. 11 days journey. How long did it take us to get there?
40 years.
40 years, not 40 days, but 40 years. But the experiences came along in the journey. For those who survived, there was a lot learned in the journey. What took place that y'all piss Yahweh off that he had to change an 11-day journey into 40 years? Because they couldn't get on one accord. He sent people out to spy out the land, and some come back with their own fears, thought processes. Nah, man, the people over there is bigger than us. And they spied out the land for how long? 40 days. Yahweh gave them a year for every day that they came back with an evil report. Joshua and Caleb had to suffer through this. And they weren't in agreement with them. That's the patience of the patience of the saints and the servants. That's what makes it a family. Hey, even in your own household, somebody mess up and you don't know, all of a sudden the whole house turned upside down. Hey, bro, it's a family. We're going to go through this as a family. That's why the quicker you figure out what's going on and hit your knees, maybe the less you'll suffer through. Acts chapter 9, and we're going to read verse 1 through 16.
Acts chapter 9, and verse 1. And Saul, yet breathing out threatenings and slaughter against the disciples of the Adonai, went unto the high priest, and desired of him letters to Damascus, to the synagogues, that if he found any of this way, whether they were men or women, he might bring them bound unto Jerusalem. And as he journeyed, he came near Damascus, and suddenly there shined round about him a light from heaven.
So when Saul started this journey, it was of his own will. At least so he thought. He had mischief on his mind. And that's how a lot of us get on journeys. Let's just all look back at our lives and where we thought we were in control. Saul asking for letters to go take care of this business. Not knowing that, bro, this journey ain't gonna go the way you think it's gonna go. You had something, my brother?
Thought it was lawful to him.
Exactly. He thought what he was gonna do was lawful. But lawful on the side of who he's hanging out with. That's why we say, hey, because it's lawful don't mean it's expedient. Go ahead.
Verse 4. And he fell to the earth, and heard a voice saying unto him, Saul, Saul, why persecutest thou me? And he said, Who are you, Adonai? And the Adonai said, I am Yahshua, whom thou persecutest. It is hard for thee to kick against the pricks. And he, trembling and astonished, said, Adonai, what wilt thou do? What will you have me to do? And Yahweh and the Adonai said unto him, Arise and go into the city, and it shall be told thee what thou must do. And the men which journeyed with him stood speechless, hearing a voice, but seeing no man.
So when he started this journey, he had a crew with him, right? They know what they're about to do, not him. They know the mission. Along the way on this journey, Here comes this change for him. They didn't hear nothing. This was for him. Although they all had another journey that they had been set out on. That's why I say sometimes, hey, when the change comes, you might have to walk alone and figure out some things. And once you figure out what your course is, then maybe you can bring some others along on the journey.
You know, he said, well, they did hear the voice. They didn't see nothing.
Right.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Appreciate that.
No problem, brethren. Verse 8. And Saul arose from the earth, and when his eyes were opened, he saw no man, but they led him by the hand and brought him into Damascus. And he was 3 days without sight, and neither did he eat nor drink. And there was a certain disciple at Damascus named Ananias. And to him said the Adonai in a vision, Ananias. And he said, Behold, I am here, Adonai. And the Adonai said unto him, Arise and go into the street which is called Straight, and inquire in the house of Yehudis for one called Saul of Tarsus, for behold, he prayeth, and hath seen in a vision a man named Ananias coming in and putting his hand on him, that he might receive his sight. Then Ananias answered Adonai, I have heard by many of this man, how much evil he hath done to your saints at Jerusalem. And here he hath authority from the chief priests to bind all that call on your name. But the Adonai said unto him, Go your way, for he is a chosen vessel unto me, to bear my name before the Gentiles and the kings and the children of Israel. For I will show him how great things he must suffer for my name's sake.
So when you go back up to verse 13, Ananias says, I've heard by many of this man how much evil he has done to your saints. And what was the Adonai's answer? Oh, I'm going to show him what he got to do. So when we look back at our own past, and unless there's a perfect man in the room, I don't think Yahshua's in the room. Let's look at the deeds that we've done. Whether you think it's evil or not, let's compare it to what's written in the book. And we've all fallen short of righteousness, and understand how much each and every one of us owes on our walk. Maybe then we'll put a better effort on our journey, understanding how much we must pay for what we've done along the way. Let's look at the people who we've caused pain and hurt to. Let's look at our dealings. The dealings of the old man is what should make you put forth a stronger effort on this walk. Unless you one of these little kids in this room that's, I'd say 16 and below. Hey man, we all have something on our account. Yeah, we took our baptism, but let's examine our walk before the baptism. And let's look at how he kept us on the journey and brought us into the shepherd's tent. Now, do you just come in the shepherd's tent just to be a seat dweller? Or do you look at what's on your account that you need to pay off? This man, he said, I've heard how much evil he's done to your saints at Jerusalem. So he's wreaking havoc in the holy city. I guess he done did enough there, he ready to take it on the road. Go ahead.
That was it. Verse
All right,
16.
let's go to Acts chapter 13, and we're going to read verses 1 through 6. See, we all get on this journey and think we squeaky clean or try to act like we squeaky clean. I mean, there's people who can't even get over the past to realize that, look, yeah, Yahweh allowed me to go do this. But now he's brought me here. Let's drop this off and leave this over here. I'm not saying we can't conversate on, look, I know where I'm coming from. I used to do this, this, and this. But there's some people who can't just have that conversation about what they used to do and come out of it. There's some people that when they're talking about it, you know that they're still there mentally because you see the glee in the conversation. Then you have to examine yourself of how wholeheartedly am I walking if I still find comfort in this thing. Just like Esau found comfort in killing his brother. All of our journeys are different, but the experience of each journey is a teaching tool. If we all sit down and compare notes, we can learn things from each other, from each other's journey. That's what we're doing right now. When we get into this book and we're reading the book of the lives of our brothers, we should be taken from the examples and the experiences and learning what to do and what not to do, how to do it and how not to do it, when to do it and when not to do it. Because you can do the right thing at the wrong time and it be counted as unrighteousness. Go ahead.
Acts chapter 13 and verse 1. Now there were in the church that was at Antioch certain prophets and teachers, as Barnabas and Simeon that was called Niger, and Lucius of Cyrene, and Manaen, which had been brought up with Herod the Tetrarch, and Saul. And they ministered to the Adonai and fasted. The Holy Spirit said, Separate me Barnabas and Saul for the work whereunto I have called them.
So they're in a group of people. And what did it say? What did the Holy Spirit say? Separate them two for the work that I got for them two. Now what happens when they turn around and call Barnabas or Barnabas says, hey, Simeon, I need you to come with me, man. And Lucius, I need you to come with me. Nah, man, this is for you too. But can we recognize when the work is either for us by ourselves or just for us and this person over here? If that was the case, he would have said, oh, y'all, come on, let's go do this work. But we need to be able to recognize when everybody ain't needed. Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
And you know, my brother, even though, you know, sometimes within the calling, you know, we've built up an acquaintance with these people. Even though you're called, you know, Yahweh is separating you for a reason. So, you know, you have to choose whether you're going to separate yourself, you know, from the friends, your families, or whoever you've been with, or you're going to follow what Yahweh says and, you know, separate yourself and go further on the journey. You know, even though, yeah, you know, the people who you've been kicking it or living with, you know, you got to move from.
Right. You know, with that said, I want us to keep in mind this verse here. Separate me, Barnabas and Saul, for the work whereunto I have called them. The Adonai said this, right? Barnabas and Saul. Go ahead.
Verse 3. And when they had fasted and prayed and laid their hands on them, they sent them away. So they, being sent forth by the Holy Spirit, departed unto Seleucia, and from thence they sailed to Cyprus. And when they were at Salamis, they preached the word of Elohim in the synagogues of the Yehudis. And they had also Yohanan to their minister. And when they had gone through the isle unto Paphos, they found a certain sorcerer, a false prophet, a Yehudi, whose name was Bar Jesus.
Now, as we're continuing, just look at the map that's up. You know, we're doing some geography today. Just look at the map and look at the travels. Look at the circuit that this brother's constantly moving in. Man, in this day and age, we'd be broke. But Yahshua said, greater works than these shall we do. Mm-hmm. Hey, man, we sit down in front of a camera and hit the internet. We travel further than that. Mm-hmm. Without getting up and leaving the place we're in. That was verse 6, right?
Yes, sir.
Let's go to Acts chapter... let's jump down to verse 13 and 14.
Now when Saul and his company loosed from Paphos, they came to Perga in Pamphylia, and Yohanan departed from them, returned to Jerusalem. But when they departed from Perga, they came to Antioch in Pisidia, and went into the synagogue on the Sabbath day and sat down.
So these brothers are moving constantly. Verse 49.
And the word of the Adonai was published throughout all the region. But the Yehudis stirred up the devout and honorable women and the chief men of the city, and raised persecution against Saul and Barnabas, and expelled them out of their coasts. But they shook off the dust of their feet against them, and came into Iconium.
So sometimes it's pleasurable and they move on their own, and sometimes they get forced to move on. Go ahead.
And the disciples were filled with joy and with the Holy Spirit.
But we see the benefit of what needs to be done, right? The cause of all this says what? And the word of the Adonai was published throughout all the region. So even in the bad times when they getting persecuted, there's a greater purpose behind it. Because some people receive the word, while others are trying to persecute the people that are delivering the word. Mm-hmm. But as long as they're doing their job, hey man, and there will be no blood on their hands. Go ahead.
Oh, that was it. 52. That was it.
All right, we're going to go to Acts chapter 14, and we're going to read verses 1 through 7.
And it came to pass in Iconium that they went both together into the synagogue of the Yehudis, and so spake that a great multitude both of the Yehudis and also of the Greeks believed. But the unbelieving Yehudis stirred up the Gentiles and made their minds evil affected against the brethren.
So in verse 50, back in verse 30, chapter 39, but the Yehudis stirred up the devout and honorable women and the chief men of the city. Their own people keep causing them problems. Cause them to have to leave there, and then they end up in Iconium. Now they're in Iconium, and what's happening again? The Yehudis stirring up problems. Go ahead.
Long time therefore abode they speaking boldly in the Adonai, which gave testimony unto the word of his grace, and granted signs and wonders to be done by their hands. But the multitude of the city was divided, and part held with the Yehudis, and part with the apostles. And when there was an assault made both of the Gentiles and also of the Yehudis with their rulers, to use them despitefully and to stone them. And they were aware of it, and fled unto Lystra and Derbe, cities of Lycaonia, and unto the region that lieth round about.
So persecution and problems, they keep having to flee. And as they're fleeing, the word keeps spreading. Go ahead.
And there they preached the gospel. That's it.
All right, let's go to chapter 15, and we're going to read verses 1 through 4.
And certain men which came down from Judea taught the brethren and said, Except ye be circumcised after the manner of Moshe, ye cannot be saved. And when therefore Saul and Barnabas had no small dissension and disputation with them, they determined that Saul and Barnabas and certain other of them should go up to Jerusalem unto the apostles and elders about this question.
So they're doing their job in the region that they were sent forth to go and spread the word. Now we got our people constantly causing problems with them. Now what? Now they got to go to Jerusalem to seek counsel on this situation. But as we look at the map again, these brothers were doing some serious traveling. How many of us can say that persecution is the reason why we've traveled or made the moves that we've moved? Go ahead.
And being brought on their way by the church, they passed through Phoenicia and Samaria, declaring the conversation of the Gentiles, and they caused declaring the conversion of the Gentiles, and they caused great joy unto all the brethren. And when they were come to Jerusalem, they were received of the church and of the apostles and elders, and they declared all things that Elohim had done with them.
So with all this traveling and all this moving around that they're doing on this journey, they realize it's not of them. This is Yahweh's doing. That's why I say let's just reflect on our own journey and on our own lives, and let's really look and see where we had a hand in the decisions, or was it Yahweh that was guiding and steering us? Let's go to Acts chapter 15. I actually just jump down to verse 33 through 36. This is going to be the last piece of scripture that we read. And I'm saying this for all those who might want to take a restroom break at this point. So that way, during benediction, we're not just standing here.
Acts chapter 15 and verse 33. And after they had tarried there a space, they were let go in peace from the brethren unto the apostles. Notwithstanding, it pleased Silas to abide there still. Saul also and Barnabas continued in Antioch, teaching and preaching the word of the Adonai, with many others also. And some days after, Saul said unto Barnabas, Let us go again and visit our brethren in every city where we have preached the word of the Adonai, and see how they do.
So at this point, he's saying, let's go back to every city. Despite the treatment that we've gotten, man, let's go back and check everybody out. Go ahead and read verse 37. The reason I want verse 37 to be read, remember, who did the Adonai separate to do this job? Okay, read verse 37.
And Barnabas determined to take with them Johanan, whose surname was Mark.
So now he want to bring somebody on the journey. Let's keep going.
Okay. But Saul thought Saul thought not good to take him with them, who departed from them from Pamphylia, and went not with them to the work.
So did he depart, or were y'all two set on a journey? Is Saul wrong in his feelings? No, we were set forth to do this job, bruh. Why are you trying to bring this man? Because this is your boy? This is who you kick it with? Go ahead.
And the contention was so sharp between them that they departed asunder one from the other. And so Barnabas took Mark and sailed unto Cyprus. And Saul chose Silas and departed, being recommended by the brethren unto the grace of Elohim. And he went through Syria and Cilicia, confirming the churches.
So we can see that the division of Saul and Barnabas was not of the Adonai. This was Barnabas in his own thought process of now wanting to bring somebody else on the journey. And in some ways, hey man, me and you we've been kicking it through all these places. I know how you gonna react. You know how I'm gonna react. Now you bringing a third person for me to have to worry about? Especially in Saul's position being the head person. Bro, now I gotta look out for this dude? Nah, man, I know how me and you work. I know how me and you move. I can give you a certain look and you know, hey, bro, time to exit, stage left. Now I'm gonna have to look at both of y'all. But that's the journey. We have to understand when changes come in the journey. We have to understand that our journey as a servant is just that. Our journey. It says everybody has their own book. My journey is not going to include you when the books are open. Now, if we can jump to slide 7. This has been part of my journey right here. So I've traveled over seas and lands and airplanes but coming here, there's a point in time when I thought to myself, man, I wish I had came when I was a teenager and not as young as I came. But then I got to reflect on what lessons did Yahweh need me to learn at a young age that I probably would not have been able to grasp as a teenager. Because then I'd have been set in certain ways had I came a little bit older. I'd have had a mindset of doing certain things in certain manners and maybe wouldn't be open to change. Or even at that point, might have been a little bit more emboldened to tell my old man, nah, bro, you go by yourself. I'm not going. And the funny thing is, when I look at it, the journey was mine. Because when I got here, I basically got dropped off because my father was back and forth in the islands. So now begins my journey with different people, different encounters, strangers constantly. But it built something in me. It allowed me to understand that family, kindred, does not necessarily mean my blood. So when I come into this walk or as I'm taking this journey, I can appreciate the word spiritual family. Because I got separated from natural family at such a young age. I can understand that a woman did not necessarily have to be my birth mother to show me the love of a mother and accept me as a son and show me the love of a mother. So then I can now look at my spiritual brothers and sisters and have an appreciation for family. I can now look at my spiritual nieces and nephews and care for them just as I would my own children. There's something in the journey for each and every one of us. We have to just reflect and look back at our journey. My journey didn't stop there. Let's go to the next one. That ain't a straight line. I didn't cross the water to get to Myrtle Beach. I went around, I curved, I drove there. On 95, like this brother said. But with all these changes, I'm also experiencing different people, different mindsets. You see Port St. Lucie, but in Port St. Lucie, I worked in Vero Beach. Anybody who knows anything about Vero Beach, that's old money. When I say old money, I mean old money. Anheuser-Busch old money. As in, I've ran into these people. So then it teaches you how to deal with different people. Go up to Myrtle Beach. And in Myrtle Beach, as much as our people love to go to Myrtle Beach, I can tell you, going to visit Myrtle Beach and staying in Myrtle Beach is two different things. You stay there long enough, you realize just how prejudiced Myrtle Beach is. I saw the difference between Harley Week, we know what Harley Week is about, and then Black Bike Week. I see makeshift signs go up to enforce certain things during Black Bike Week that I didn't see during Harley Week. Such as noise pollution strictly enforced. What does that mean? You niggas don't come here with your loud music because we're going to give you a ticket. Now, which one is louder? The music in your car or the pipes on a Harley bike?
Harley bike.
But yet, you are going to be charged because of your loud music. But these Harley bikes, when they're revved up, is louder than your music. There ain't no noise pollution sign being enforced. Then comes the trip to Georgia. Why? I was in a store in Myrtle Beach. Remember I talked about my buddy earlier? Got a store in Georgia. Keeps convincing me, man, you need to come out to Georgia. You need to come out to Georgia. So eventually I come here. And then realize the friendship ain't like it used to be. But as I get in this word and start reflecting, this is where Yahweh needed me to be. To learn what he needed me to learn. The journey wasn't joyous, but I'm thankful for the journey. So as we go on, even right now, what we're dealing with, we really gotta reflect, look at things, meditate on some things you've even said. Even this week, I was listening to Smite the Shepherd. That's one of Priest Esauc's songs. Hey man, there's so much prophecy in that song for our own lives that we didn't even realize what we were saying when we put together some of them lyrics. Because I've got a verse in that song that says, he goats stand up, we were groomed for this every day. I look back and I was like, yeah, I talked about myself and didn't even realize it. Because what happened? When the situation happened with Priest Esau, what did I have to do? What did Eliel have to do? He's on the song too. And a lot of you brothers in here and on the internet who are not here, and sisters did exactly that. Stood up. But the journey, once again, once we look back, we'll realize that it had nothing to do with us. We were not in control. So as we continue, let's be mindful of how we're dealing on the journey. Are we trying to instill our own will? Or are we backing off and letting Yah's will be done? That's all for today, family. Remember the Sabbath to keep it holy. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.